Good evening. Welcome to the Southeast Tennessee Friday Night Pressbox presented by Team FIN Sports. Joined now, as always, by Jeff Cate at the Jeff Cate on Twitter and Coach Mark Stone. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
Doing great.
Doing good, man. Ready to talk some more football for sure.
Ready to go with some football.
Ready for more football. I heard that. So, Jeff, we've got 3 or 4 games to recap from last week. What are those 3 or 4 games that you've highlighted for us this week?
Well, obviously, we talked about last week a little small game around here that is one of the biggest in our area, probably in the state as well, is Baylor-McCallie. And, for McCallie, obviously, we know the story about them, back-to-back state champions and looking pretty strong to make it a three-peat for those guys. But, also they've been on a winning streak against their rival, at Baylor. And that series or that streak got extended to 6 wins in a row. It was a close game there in the end, but McCallie was able to hang on for a 28-20 win over the Red Raiders. And, this game is, kind of not been as close as, you would expect a rivalry game the last few years. But, Baylor, like I said, was able to I think it was a 21-0 McCallie first half lead, but, Baylor fought back and got back to that 8-point margin. But I think everybody was looking at McCallie to extend that winning streak and continue to stay undefeated on the year, and they definitely did that. And I guess it's kind of the same old thing, the machine rolls and looking pretty strong to add another state championship to their belt here, hopefully at the end of the season.
Coach Stone, your thoughts about Baylor-McCallie?
Well, I think it's a classic every year. They just both of them are very well coached, very disciplined. I taped that ball game last week and watched it, and I thought it was a good football game. McCallie just does a great game, and I'm sure in this series Baylor has done the same to them. And it's a high school game. I think everybody ought to want to watch.
Okay, South Pittsburgh goes on the road to Dade County, Georgia, and does not come back home with a win.
No, this is the second week in a row that the Pirates have kind of gone across the state line. Last week or the week before, they went to Alabama to take on North Jackson. That was a classic 21-20 victory for the Pirates. But they went over to Dade County, and Dade County has been had a good start to the season in Georgia, and South Pitt was able to cut the margin to 5 points at that 26-21 final score margin, but Dade County was able to put a drive together to run the clock out and get a big victory over South Pittsburgh. So the South Pitt's first loss of the year. So and that's the thing we noticed even when Coach Jones was there early on as the head coach. Their schedule has been pretty strong. Obviously, with North Jackson and then the Dade County, and obviously we know Oakland's coming to town, the 6A power in the state of Tennessee. So. But the good thing about South Pittsburgh's region is they can regroup and kind of get things back on track fairly quickly. I expect them to do that going into this final few weeks of the season as the playoff push begins.
Excellent point. South Pittsburgh, they're going to get back on track, don't you think?
I wouldn't worry about this if I was South Pittsburgh. They're going to win their region, and they're going to. I think they're going to be fine through the playoffs, and I think. I still say they're going to be the one from the East in Chattanooga playing for the state championship. But, just a bump in the road, which they usually don't have. But that's a schedule that's quite unbelievable.
One more quick game before we welcome our guests.
I guess we'll just talk about this one real quick. The game we were at for our Coca-Cola Red Zone game of the week was a big region battle between two region unbeatens as East Hamilton and Central squared off. And if you like offense and a lot of passing yards, East Hamilton was definitely your scene on Friday at Hurricane Hill. Quarterback Lake Clark had over 400 yards passing, and Jeremiah Flemings had close to 200 yards receiving. I mean, it just all over the yard. And really, it was 2 defensive plays in the fourth quarter on both sides. There was 2 pick sixes that for both teams that highlighted that. 5 total scores in the fourth quarter between both teams. So it was a 26-20 game there in the fourth quarter, and then it just kind of broke open for the Hurricanes. And, it was a big rebound win for Coach Reynolds' squad after that 1-point loss to McMinn County, which is their first loss of the season. So, they got they end the season with 3 region games. I think they play Saudi Daisy, I believe, on Thursday night, and then they got a big one against Red Bank coming up, which could seal the Region 4 East Hamilton if they get there. So, but yeah, just a big win for Coach Reynolds' squads. And Central is a much improved football team. I was definitely pleasantly surprised to see how well that Coach Jones's squad over at Central has improved since he got back to Highway 58 and as he took over the Pounders job for sure.
They've been quite the impressive football team. I mean, I know they're not where Coach Jones wants them to be, but I've been impressed with them.
One of our two guests tonight on the podcast, head coach of the Tyner Rams, Coach Scott Chandler. We'll bring him on. Coach, how are you doing tonight? First off, thanks for joining us, and how are you doing?
It's a pleasure to be here with you guys to talk a little ball, and I'm doing good. Thank you.
Well, Coach, obviously – Go ahead, Wes. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wes.
I was going to ask you, kind of give us a recap of the first few weeks of the season, how you got off to this good start.
Well, I think we kind of started off slow offensively, and we've gotten better a little bit every week. And our quarterback has really improved over the last 6 weeks. He's getting better and better every week. If we can continue to protect him, I think he's going to be able to throw some against some people coming up. And, defensively, we've been fairly good from the beginning, and still kind of keep it that way through the first 6 games. Knock on wood, we only had 1 or 2 injuries. That's the big thing, with us. We're not very deep, so we got to make sure we keep our guys healthy as much as possible. We lost our center a couple of weeks ago, but he's had surgery, but we've been able to get some guys to come along and be able to replace him and get some playing time in to give those guys a break. So, so far so good for us.
Well, that's definitely good stuff. And obviously, people around this area have heard your name before. You've been around this area, coaching high school football, and this is your first year over at Tyner High School. Just kind of talk about, obviously, when you go into a new situation like you have, obviously the kids got to buy in, and obviously the parents and the community. Just kind of talk about kind of how, the not just the players, but the Tyner community around you has bought into what you guys have been brought to the table, because obviously off to an undefeated start. You guys are definitely doing something right. That speaks a lot to what the players have done, buying into what you're bringing to the table.
Right. Well, I think the first thing you start with is, when I was interested in the job, I knew 2 things, because Coach Turner was here. I knew the kids were going to act right, and I knew they were going to play hard. And if you get those 2 things taken care of, you'll win some ball games. So when we first got here, we tried to make some improvements to the locker room and the facilities as much as you can in Hamilton County. And I think the kids bought into that we were trying to do something for them and make them feel a little special and show them that, hey, we ask an awful lot of you guys. We're going to do something for y'all to make you feel a little better about being around here and working for us. So I think that helped with the guys. The other thing, too, is they hired Coach Ward after Coach Turner, and he was here probably 2 months and really didn't get a chance to do anything. And then he left and got the college job at Chattanooga. So, they were kind of in limbo all winter and really all spring. They had no spring practice. And I was hired at the end of May, almost. It was last week of school, I believe. So we had to hit the ground running in June, and they bought into that, had good participation all through the summer. And, they're a good bunch of kids. We're lucky we got some good players, and I got some good coaches. I think the parents bought into the fact that we were going to love on those guys and try to hold them accountable. And the biggest thing for us is we want to make them into men. There's enough males in society. We need to produce men that will take care of their responsibilities and obligations, not worry so much about rights and privileges like society does, and, be good husbands, fathers, citizens when they leave here.
Coach Stone, I know you want to ask about play up front, so why don't you go ahead and ask
No,
Coach
I'm
Chandler?
going to find out a little bit more about his offense. Now, I always ask about the offensive lineman because we always talk about the quarterback that throws for 400 yards, and he stands back there all day. But what are some of the things I've known Coach Turner for many, many years, and there probably wasn't a whole lot that you had to do. Like you talked about, he was a disciplinarian. His kids played hard. He demanded a lot of them. So, what were some of the things that maybe you had to bring in or brought in different than what he was doing?
Well, we're running a spread offense, so that's like Chinese to these guys from the wing tee that they were running with Coach Turner.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a lot of RPO stuff that the quarterback has to read, and we throw it. I remember we took our guys to a 7-on-7 at the end of June, and they said that we threw more that night than they've thrown in 20 years. So
wow,
we've thrown the ball a little bit. So that stuff, just trying to get them used to something different. Luckily, we've got guys that are football smart and are able to pick it up pretty quick. So we're spread, but we're going to run a gap scheme. We're going to run the ball as much as we can and try to play action off it. And if we're running it good, those linebackers and overhang guys have got to come up and help stop the run. That's what we're going to RPO off of.
Right. And what about your offensive linemen? Go ahead. Let's give them a little love, and then defensive linemen.
Yeah, the O-line at left tackle, we got Anthony Sims. He's a senior. He's probably about 6'3", 6'4", 245, 250. Our left guard's Jonah Chapman. He's 6 foot, about 260. Our center right now is Tiandre Tarvin. He's the smallest one. He's probably about 6 foot, probably 220. And then our right guard is Jamarian Varnell. He goes probably about 6'1", 265. And then our right tackle's the big boy. He's probably 6'4", about 275. Journey Norwood's his name. They all do a great job. They're physical, athletic guys. All 5 of those guys play D-line also. So we rotate them in and out on D-line, rotate a couple of sophomores out on the line to give the guys a break. On offense, Monteese Moore is one of the guys that rotate in for us. He's just sophomore. But those guys have what make us go. I mean, we're able to run the ball pretty good with those guys. And like I said earlier, if we can protect the quarterback and run it, we're going to be pretty good.
I'm going to tell you guys, Jeff, you and Wes, you want to hear some crying, you let them 5 guys up there not block. That guy back there in the back, he's going to cry. He's going to whine. Somebody going to have to get that man off of me. So, that's to me, that's so important. Hear some of those guys' name and know that you all are having a wonderful season.
Thank you.
Well, obviously, with a new year meant new reclassification for everybody in the state of Tennessee, and your region coach this year. I know I've been excited to see just so many well-coached teams that have had success across the years, and has there been a big adjustment for the guys, and I guess you as well, with this new region? Because I mean, you got some pretty strong teams, especially over the last couple of years, that have had some kind of major success, especially in the postseason. Have you seen much change in that, or just kind of just look at the schedule, let's play?
Well, I was hoping I was going to get out of the region like we just got into. I mean, having played Bradley, Cleveland, Maryville, McMinn County, all those guys, and then get into this one, and you got Bledsoe, Marion, Meigs, Polk, and Tellico. So, it's a tough region, that's for sure. I mean, Meigs been state championship semifinals last 2 or 3 years, maybe even more than that. I'm not sure. And Marion County's always good. Bledsoe County was really good last year. So you're right. We kind of jumped into it. And then, scheduling wise, Bledsoe had the COVID early in the year, not Bledsoe. Marion County had it early in the year. So we postponed it. So we're going Bledsoe, Marion, Meigs, and Alcoa all back to back. So that's a pretty tough 4-game stretch.
Well, let's just look at it as it's prepping you guys for the push into the playoffs, right? For sure. But, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I know we talked a little bit when the first game kind of got pushed to this week. We were pumping that as a game of unbeatens. And how funny is that we're rolling into this week, the second week in October, where both teams are undefeated coming back into this game as well. So obviously, that should be everybody's game of the week. I know it's going to be ours on the Red Zone on Friday night. So just kind of give us, if you look at in the history of these two programs, if you go back in the 90s especially, I think half of the state titles from 90 to 19 or 1999 2000 were won by Tyner and Marion County. So that should speak volumes of what this series and what this rivalry should be. It was a rivalry based on what my mom went to Tyner, so she worked with somebody who went to Marion County back then, so they were going out. I know it's going to be the same on Friday. So just kind of talk about, going over to Jasper and playing Coach Pruitt's team. What do you guys have to do to go over there and kind of continue that undefeated streak against the Warriors?
Right. Well, we're excited about going over there. And, it's boiling down to this is going to be most likely for a home playoff spot tomorrow night. And, Coach Pruitt, they've got a really good team. They've got 3 guys that are really, really fast, good football players. They play different positions. They'll play running back. They'll play wing back. They'll play, I think they've moved number 7 to quarterback pretty much full time now. And that's been a huge difference for them the last few weeks having him there. So they're a real talented football team. And then, I'm sure that Coach Stone there loves watching them because they could line up in a phone booth. They're foot to foot, double tight end, 2 wings. They're going to come off and hit you in the mouth. And nobody likes that stuff nowadays. We like it all spread out so we ain't got to get physical. So
Coach, I'm telling you, I fell in love with this spread about 10 years ago, and I still, I don't see it leaving town.
Right. So we've got to answer your question, what do we have to do? Number one, we've got to match their physicality up front. If we don't do that, it's going to be a long night for us. We've also got to eliminate the big play from them. They've all year they've been able to hit big plays with those guys I've talked about running the ball. So we've got to eliminate the big play, make them drive it as much as we can, and we've got to take care of the football. We can't turn it over, and we're going to have to try to get a turnover from them too. And on offense, just the opposite. We've got to make some big plays, and use some of our speed and some of our athletes, get them in space, and hopefully can make a big play. But, we're very fortunate to be where we are, 6-0. Marion's a really good team. Hopefully it'll be a good game when we go over there. We're looking forward to it, and we're excited to go.
That's one place that when you go on the road, that's you're there. You can talk about a whole lot of places, going on the road being tough. Marion is always tough at home, and I think I certainly am glad to hear about Tyner and you guys, the success you're having.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
definitely appreciate you coming on. Jeff, did you have another question?
No, just for all the listeners and viewers of this podcast, like you mentioned, obviously the physicality is going to be a big thing, Coach. Marion's giving up 31 points all year. You guys are putting up crazy numbers offensively, so it should be a good clash of styles. And I know that, like you said, I know you're looking for the opportunity. We're looking forward to covering it, and I know if you're in the area, definitely go out and support 2 good, well-coached programs, and anything else you want to leave us with, Coach, as far as kind of what's going on over at Tyner that we want to hear about? Or
well, if we're fortunate enough to have a home playoff game, y'all need to come out and get some fish sandwiches, but you better get there early because they go in a hurry.
So I've
only got one myself all year. They sell out.
just to confirm, the fish sandwiches are back because on the Red Zone, my on-site colleague, he has a stomach as big as his brain, and that's pretty big for sure. So he loves those fish sandwiches, and he was so disappointed they went away after, I think it was last year they were gone for a little while, so they are back for sure.
Oh, they're back. They're back and better forever, better than ever. Miss Sabrina, she can cook those fish sandwiches now.
You got to put a manager in charge of getting you 2 or 3, maybe 4.
They're good.
I know. Problem is, though, they sell it. The basketball team uses that as a fundraiser. I can't get them to keep those sandwiches for me because they got to make money.
That's your responsibility. Don't worry about anything. Get me some fish sandwiches down here.
That's right.
Coach, well, we definitely appreciate you coming on. Thanks for talking about your program with us, and go get them this week. All right.
All right, been my pleasure, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Head Coach Scott Chandler on the Friday Night Press Box. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to have another guest. I'm going to let Jeff Cate introduce on the flip side of this quick commercial break. So you're listening to the Friday Night Press Box presented by Team FYN Sports.
Welcome back to the Southeast Tennessee Friday Night Press Box presented by Team FYN Sports. And we're just pleased to be joined now by the first-year head coach of the Ottawa Owls, Goose Manning. And, Coach, first of all, just thank you for taking the time to come on and join us. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
Good. I appreciate y'all having me on here and giving me the opportunity to talk about our kids. And I'm pretty open about being transparent as far as our kids go. And anytime I get a chance to boost them up, I like to take the opportunity. So just like I said, thanks for having me on and penciling me in after Coach Chandler. He's a close friend of mine and really been a big help in me trying to get this thing started. And taking over for him is tough, but having him as a friend really helps. So.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Now, I kind of like Coach Chandler. I guess let's just kind of, if you want to, kind of recap up to the season this point. I mean, obviously the schedule has been murderer's row for you. Obviously, any coach, whether it's a first-year coach or in year 10 of their tenure has, obviously these opponents have been very tough. But I think as a competitor yourself, a former quarterback, you definitely want those challenges. So kind of just talk about the Owl season leading up to this point and last week's big win against Howard in region play.
Yeah, so getting a job as late as I did really didn't help anybody. I think I officially got the job on July 2nd was when they announced it, and having to hit the ground, I mean, about as fast as you could go with where I was in the middle of the dead period, so really didn't get to start with the kids until the 12th when the dead period was over, and then you start out with East Ham, who I think is either already won the region or is about to compete for it when they play Red Bank at the end. And then we were supposed to play Red Bank and got COVIDed out because we ended up missing about 25, 30 kids. And then you go you host Ray County, who just won our region, or is en route to win it. Then you go to Walker Valley, who's going to finish second. And then your reward for doing all those things is to play Baylor. And then we finally got to play Howard, which is a region game. But here's the deal: I mean, that's a playoff team a year ago. So, and I think I don't know what show it was on in the preseason, but I mean, we played 10 playoff teams this year on our schedule. And that's tough for any program, but especially a program that's still trying to figure out who we are, and especially just between February and now, they've had 3 head coaches between Coach Chandler, Coach Williams, and myself. So they're still, we're still trying to figure out who we are. And then, we kind of started playing well up until the Jamboree and kind of started getting in the swing of things. And then, like I said, lost 30 kids over the course of about 3 weeks to COVID protocol and contact tracing. And most of that was like where they were sitting in school, so there's nothing we could do to mitigate it. And I'll tell you, our our kids have met the challenge. I know the scores haven't looked like what they should have, but I'd say they show up to work every day. And when you're talking about 14 through 18-year-olds, and you don't always get that. Sometimes it's hard to keep them on the straight and narrow when it's not all going the right direction. And I'm glad they got a little bit of success against Howard last week. And I told them it was coming. They just had to bear with us. And like our reward for winning last week is we get to play 6-0 Bradley this week. So I told them we beat Howard, so we qualified for the playoffs, which is one of our goals was to get back to the playoffs. We haven't been in 2 years. And I told them by the time we get there, we're going to be the most battle-tested 4 seed or 3 seed in the TSSAA state championships. So,
yeah, I mean that's for sure. And kind of talk about last week's game, because for people who didn't really pay attention, I mean, obviously you put up a bunch of points, but a lot of those were because of your defense going after the football, creating plays, and not creating opportunities for your offense. They took it. They definitely took the ball and ran with it literally into the end zone. So just kind of and obviously with that was your first win as a head coach, and obviously like you said as well, it qualified you guys for the postseason there as well. So a lot to kind of wrap your mind around. I'm sure you were still thinking about that probably early this. Well, actually knowing you probably not, because you're moving on to Bradley Central, but just kind of talk about just that game and just that Friday night there at the Nest, kind of what all that meant to you and kind of what that meant to the team.
Yeah, well, like I told them, I told them to celebrate Friday night and enjoy it Friday night, maybe a little bit Saturday morning, because they deserve it. They've had to earn that one. I said, but here's the deal: we got a big game for us. Bradley's not a region game, but I think it's a game that's important to play at Ottawa High School. It's kind of whether it's a region or not, because we've been in the same region the last 4 years. It's a good litmus test for our program and where we're at. And Coach Floyd does such a good job getting his team ready to play and making them consistent playoff contenders every year. I think it's a good game for us to play, and it's a game we need to play well in if we want to finish the season the right way and not try to get an early exit in the playoffs. But yeah, our defense, man, we ended up with 9 turnovers. And probably had a chance for about 11 or 12. And then of the 9, they returned 4 for touchdowns. So when the defense puts up 28, I mean, that helps. Anytime it helps. We've had a rough second quarter in every game we played. Like we've been playing, even with Baylor, it was 7-0 at the end of the first or 10-0 at the first. And then kind of the wheels fall off in the second because we get hit in the mouth a little bit. And we've never been kind of through that adversity as a team. So we're trying to learn how to battle through that. And that happened a little bit to us against Howard. With about a minute left in the first quarter, I think it was 7-0. And then we got our first pick 6. And then we reeled off 28 or something like that in the second quarter and went into half up 41-0. And I'll tell you what, man, our kids have never – I haven't seen them that excited in a long time. And they deserve that. Like and I told them, after we lost to Ray County, the score was 34-7 or 35-7, but I don't think that was indicative of how the game went. It was a lot closer. They were more physical than we are because they're bigger and stronger, and we're doing things to correct that. But they really got after it and competed. And I brought the student section down and the teachers and parents, whoever was there. I said, y'all come in and get in our huddle at the end. And I said, I asked them just to stick with these kids because they deserve it. And they've really bought in. Against Baylor, we were down 51-0 when the final buzzer hit, and the whole student section was still at the game. And then they did the same thing against Howard, and then we brought them all in to celebrate and sing the alma mater, and that kind of stuff's important to me because I'm an Ottawa graduate. So to get the community back involved in what we're doing is like step one for me. And the first priority of the step one is to get the student section and the kids bought into what we're doing. And getting more kids to come out, because that's in the last couple of years in the region we've been playing in 6A. We've got half the kids of the Marivilles and the Clevelands and the Bradleys. So we need every available kid that wants to play football to play. And the schools that are successful, like the South Pitts, even in the 1A and the 2As, like 95% of the males in their school play football. And I want it to get back to where playing football is important.
Coach Manning, you guys as coaches, I know you wasn't the head coach last year, but you alluded to this. You ended up with 30 kids with COVID protocol. And, through my years of coaching, one year we had a rash of shoulder injuries. And, 10 or 12 kids with shoulder injuries for whatever reason. But, when you're dealing with this stuff, this COVID thing, it's a whole lot different thing because, like myself, we were going into a ball game knowing that, Tommy wasn't going to play and Joe wasn't going to play and Billy wasn't going to play. But some of this hits you on Thursday. And, I'm sure. And, I've said it on this show many times. That stuff would drive me crazy. That would drive me crazy. And, you get hit with 30 at one time. And, man, I tell you, you don't know what to do.
It's definitely frustrating. It's definitely frustrating because the hard part is we didn't have to deal with it all summer, and then all of a sudden school started, and now we've got all these protocols that we don't get me wrong, we cleaned and sanitized and did all this stuff to keep our kids healthy. But now we've done that. We did that when I was in high school. Coach Monroe did that. Coach Green did that. Coach Brown, all those guys. That was the standard, is to keep our locker room in a tight ship. But we didn't have to, you didn't have to do the temperature check. You didn't have to do this stuff all summer. So now all of a sudden you get in school, and now because of where, Tommy sat in class, now he's missing 10 days at minimum, and then it gets into, okay, if they test negative on day 5, 6, or 7, they can come back on day 8. And when you're dealing with 30 kids, that's, it's about impossible to keep up with it all. And I think what hurt us the most is there was a stretch for about 4 weeks from the Jamboree to the Baylor game where we didn't have the same 5 offensive linemen for back-to-back days, for 2 practices in a row. And that's tough when you're trying to gel and put in an offense all off season. And here's the deal. You don't get into coaching if you got thin skin, and when you hear the parents and everybody talking about, hey, why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? Hey, listen, we ain't got nobody. We're trotting sophomores out there to play at the 5A level, to play in Eastham, who's a big, strong, capable team, in the Ray counties. And that's not me making an excuse. At some point it comes down to what you got. And I love our sophomores. They're going to be great players, but there's a difference between 14, 15-year-old strength and 17 and 18-year-old strength, and they get in and to their credit, they battle no matter what. They don't care who they're playing or what, they go after it. But eventually it comes down to a numbers game, and that's the numbers game we've been playing against the Maribels and the Clevelands, and they can rotate in and we can't. We've got guys that haven't played together at all, and you're going against Ray County, who they get their kids in Pee Wee, and their rec leagues are playing together for 12 years, and we're getting kids that hadn't played together for 2 days in a row. So it's tough. It's tough to get any continuity. And like you said, Thursday, we were losing kids on Thursdays. Or we lost the starting center on a Friday morning, and it's do we even have enough to play? And I was like, I was pretty open to our admin about it again, when they had to cancel the Ray County game. I said, don't you tell them we're canceling. I said, because if I got 11, we're going. Because that's what I tell our kids, when life hits you, you don't get to cancel it or postpone it. It's sometimes that stuff gets you, and you gotta just man up and go for it. And I told myself, we got 11 players, we're going. But if you think that we have to cancel it because you think you're worried about our safety, don't do that. We'll be fine. It may not be pretty on the scoreboard, but we'll own it.
I had a young man many years ago, literally held down 6 positions for us.
Yeah.
And we had pep rally. He's at pep rally and all that stuff. And when I got back to the office that afternoon, the phone rings and they're saying, hey, coach, this is Darren. I've got 103 temperature. I'm at the emergency room. And, all of a sudden I have to get all the coaches in and say, okay, who is going to go in these slots?
Yeah.
And there was literally, like we said, 13-year-old players, freshmen and sophomores that had to go out there and play against Knox Powell. And, you know, it wasn't that they weren't good football players. They just was not ready.
Yeah.
And you guys, I mean, not just you, but coaches all around. Somebody, you know, they come in and say, "Hey, coach, we got 30 players that's you know, in COVID protocol." Wow. You know, that's a mess. I mean, that's 13, that's 30 positions already.
Yeah. Well, and you know, the tough part too is you get in a weird spot, and even at a program of our size, it's like, you know, you get kids that, like, you always want your kids at practice. Like, it's hard, you know, and now you almost, and not that our kids have done this, but you almost get a get out of jail free card to miss ball, because you can say, like, and as a coach, if you're feeling bad, I don't want you to come to practice if you've got COVID, because then not only am I losing you, I'm gonna lose the people in your position group and all of this. So it's a real tightrope that we've got to watch to figure out to figure out what. It's different every day, you know, and that's the tough part about what we're doing. Is like, not only is our job as coaches hard enough, then we got to, you know, not necessarily work for the health department, but try to figure out what we're doing every week based on that. You know,
we say this just about every week. You know, I can't wait till this stuff's finished. Get it over with.
Yeah,
let's get it out of here and help our coaches, help our players, and you know, I've heard of stories that, you know, coaches or mom and dads, you know, do you not think you can go out there and play on Friday night? Well, that's another situation.
Yeah, and you know, that's the tough part too. Is like, yeah, we want to play, and we want to be safe and do all these things, but like, when it comes down to it, I mean, like, them having to cancel the Red Bank game, that's a game that my seniors don't get back. You know, so like, this playoff game should be game 11 for them their senior year, but it's going to be game 10 because we couldn't reschedule it. And that's to no fault of ours or Red Bank's. Our bye weeks just don't match up. You know, like, Tyner got lucky that theirs and Marion's, their bye weeks match up. But ours, you know, we couldn't make anything work. So that's another opportunity that my kids don't get to compete against a really good football program in Red Bank and Chris Brown, who I've got a lot of respect for and has helped me a bunch. And that's a fun matchup for us as well, you know, dating back 30 years, you know. So that's what, you know, as a coach who really wants these kids to get every opportunity and has been through the program that they're going through now, you know, that's tough to swallow sometimes.
Well,
it's easy. Go ahead.
This just hit me, Goose. You know, obviously you're a former quarterback at Ottawa. You obviously grew around the program pretty much. I only have asked you this the times we've talked. Bigger butterflies for your first start as a high school football quarterback or a high school football coach?
Quarterback, no doubt. I told my kids before the East Ham game. You know, people ask me all day if I'm nervous, and I'll be honest with you, I really don't get nervous about that kind of stuff. And I always tell teachers, "Hey, you nervous for tonight?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not playing. I'm good." And you know, actually, Coach Akins told me a long time. I'll never forget it. Sitting, you know, Akins at Walker Valley. I was sitting. We were at Ray County about to play my senior year, and like, I was trying to be locked in and focused. And he said, "Dude, why don't you just relax?" And I was like, I'm just trying to get locked in. He said, "But you play way better when you just relax." But like I told my kids at East Ham in the locker room pregame, I said, "Look, they've been asking me all day if I'm nervous," and I said, "No, I'm not, because I know who I'm going into battle with." And like, you know, I think that's the most important thing. Like, yeah, like, obviously I was a little nervous because it is the first one, and not only is the first one, it's like Ottawa's rival. You know, like the Battle of White Oak Mountain. It's you know, they opened when I was there, and like, the kids from my class were the first graduating class at East Ham. So like, there's a lot of storylines and headlines and stuff, and that's awesome. But when it comes down to it, you know, I'm not making plays anymore. Like, I can call them, but, you know, as we all know, a lot of times we can call plays in high school, and it comes down to who's got the ball and does what and who missed it. You know, it comes down to who makes plays a lot of times. So definitely playing quarterback, because at the end you got the ball in your hand. It's your job. You know, like, coaching is one thing, and I, you know, I think probably if I was nervous about anything is my kids competing every Friday. And I've figured out pretty quick that I don't have to worry about that. They're gonna show up and give it everything. They're gonna empty the tank. So, and that's, as a coach, I think that's all I can ask for.
Well,
You know,
I just want to say, obviously, you know, it wasn't me or Justin Sims asking you those questions. I just want to throw that out there for future reference.
I got you.
You know, my son, I was the offensive coordinator over at Fannin County, Georgia, and my son was a freshman, started the first ball game, and we were at Gilmer County, and we roll up on the bus and we get off, and there's people surrounded me, and they're going, how are you doing? How's Trevor doing? Is Trevor okay? Has he been, did he sleep last night? Is he nervous? What was this and what was that? And I said, guys, first of all, I don't know who you are, and they're something from North Georgia or something like that. And I'm standing. Yeah, I'm fine. I've been a head coach before. I know our game plan. And so, I just kind of went by him in the dressing room, and he's sitting over there, with his earphones in, kind of laid back, bobbing around. And I wouldn't say anything to him, but he went out there and played very well. But he put all that anxiety and nerves to the side.
Yep.
And, I agree with you. But I think you guys doing a good job. We've talked to two guys here tonight. One started in June, one started in the middle of July. And I tell you, that's tough. That is tough. And, I wish you guys the best of luck the rest of the year.
Well, I appreciate it. And like I said, one good thing about me starting in July is I was on staff and I know most of the kids. So we didn't have that awkward get to know you stage that, Coach Chandler had to go through at Tyner a little bit. And especially at a place like Tyner with Coach Turner, Coach T over there. I mean, that's all those kids and parents know, So I think he's had to go over there and kind of win them over a little bit. And I think for Coach Chandler, that's easy to do. If you guys, if you know him, he's the real deal, man. He don't try to hide and that's one great thing about me being on his staff the last 3 years. He's given me a lot of responsibility. And I told him tonight, I said, I tell you what, the best thing he did as a head coach is something I never saw, and it's the managing of adults. Sometimes you get caught in having to take care of the team. You forget how much, and it's not, I'm not calling parents out, some parents and faculty teachers and trying to get, all like admin, like everything. It's a lot bigger of a picture than I thought it was when he was handling it. And that's what I told him tonight when I talked to him before. I try to talk to him at least twice a week. But he's been a big help to me. And I don't know that I could have done it without the last 3 years of him prepping me. And then all of this help that I'm currently getting, he's been a blessing, as long as and also like the Chris Browns and the Drew Aikens. I'm gonna leave somebody out, but even Grant Reynolds, a lot of people on my schedule have reached out to help, and I'm incredibly appreciative of that. And like I said, playing for Coach Sparks, I've said this 100 times, playing for Coach Sparks at Carson Newman and Benny Monroe and guys like that. I mean, I've been around a lot of good people who are also football coaches. And I think when you get down to it, I don't know how many games I'll win at Ottawa and how long they'll keep me around, but as long as I can continue to try to be a good person, I think I'll hopefully I'll affect the guys that I'm around. And that's based on being around Coach Sparks and Coach Monroe and Aikens. And like I said, I'll leave somebody out, and I don't mean to, but I think that's the most important part of what we do is surrounding ourselves and our kids around with good people.
I've got one last question.
Yes, sir.
And you can tell me you're not going to answer it if you don't want to. Where'd the name Goose come from?
So when I was born in the hospital, a flock of geese flew over the hospital, and my granddaddy was sitting outside with my grandmother. He always would come up with nicknames, starting with me for the grandkids, and it was always the Indians used to do about something at birth. And he said, "Well, let's call him Goose." And honestly, my dad and my family were the only people that did it. And a newspaper or somebody heard him yelling it at a football game. And they printed it in the paper like that as a sophomore. And that's what it became, even on my state tournament bracket in high school, in wrestling, it was Goose Manning, Ottawa High School, 1-7. There was no getting away from it after. And I introduced myself as Richard. I introduced myself as James. And not that it was a shame to go by Goose. I just always thought it was kind of I don't know. I guess I didn't own it until I couldn't avoid it. So
I didn't know if you'd thrown a wounded duck pass out there one day in practice, and Coach Monroe said, "Well, dadgum Goose."
no, I always tell my kids I don't ever throw ducks. When I get to throw in practice, and Coach Dunbar always, we got him back, and he was my weight training coach in high school, and he always tells me that he wishes I'd have found an arm like I have now when I was in high school. Because I low key can kind of sling it a little bit. So like when I get to throw in practice, I basically tell them like I always joke when I throw a dime, like that's like it's my day job. Like I have a good time, and that's because Akins did that when I was in high school. He'd get out there and he'd roll, and he was the Carson Newman guy too. And like I said, it's amazing, and the kids don't ever listen to you until it's too late. But it's amazing how much the game slows down once you go to college and come back. So now all this stuff that I couldn't see in high school, I'm like, oh, there's the window, bam. There's the window, bam, and you see it before it happens. It's hard to coach, but it's fun. It's fun to get out there and play around with those guys. But no, I've never thrown any ducks. I don't know that I've ever thrown any ducks.
Well, Coach Goose Manning, we definitely appreciate you taking the time to join us, and just continued success. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll see you down the road. Good luck the rest of the way at Ottawa High School, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Again, thanks for having me on. Anytime y'all want to grab me, like I said, I won't miss an opportunity to talk about our kids. So,
good luck.
So, thank you.
No problem. Thanks, buddy.
That was Ottawa head coach Goose Manning. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with some games of interest for this week, and we'll take a quick commercial break here on the Friday Night Press Box presented by Team FY Sports. Welcome back to the Southeast Tennessee Friday Night Press Box presented by Team FY Sports. Guys, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run down, not a sponsor, CoachT.com, the scoreboard. I'm going to run down that list a few games, and we'll go ahead and we'll talk after I list some of these games. Ray County goes on the road to Elizabethton, the battle of 5-1 teams there. Let's see here. Powell and Campbell County, Knoxville matchup. Both of those teams 6-1. Saudi Daisy and East Hamilton. Saudi Daisy 1-5. East Hamilton 5-1. Red Bank goes on the road to East Ridge. McMinn Central goes on the road to undefeated Loudon, a region matchup there. Like we mentioned, Tyner and Marion County, battle of unbeatens there. Copper Basin goes on the road to Meigs County. Polk County travels to Tellico Plains. Sweetwater goes to McMinn County. Bradley Central and Ottawa, like we said there. What's the game of the week on the Red Zone, Jeff Kate? Have we already mentioned that?
Well, it's the one that Coach Chandler's going to be involved in there, the battle of unbeatens in 2A, and like he said, I mean, you look at the last 3 weeks, you had one of the favorites in that region last week in Bledsoe County. Then they go on the road and play an undefeated Marion County squad, and then if they're able to get through this game against Marion County with a victory, they'll be having another battle of unbeatens next week against Meigs County. So you're looking at, we talked about Murderer's Row with Ottawa's schedule and Coach Manning. That's just another example right there, and like we talked about on the show last few weeks, pretty much just the beginning, this region in 2A, since they've redone everything, we were looking for, these matchups coming down the road, and, especially, Meigs and Tyner, that we're going to talk about that next week, but we've been anticipating that as a playoff matchup the last few years. It just hasn't happened, whether Tyner gets upset or Meigs have gotten upset before they met. So, that Tyner Marion game should be a classic, and, with Marion only giving up like 31 points in their game so far this year, and Tyner putting up close to 40 or just over 40. Something's got to give besides the undefeated streak. So we'll definitely see how those two styles clash on Friday night for sure.
Another game I need to mention, undefeated Silverdale Academy goes on the road to Knox-Wed. So a big game there for Silverdale this week. Coach Stone, I know I made my play-by-play debut on 99.5 FM WIGL last week. The radio went out for about 2.5 quarters of it. But Gabe Massengill makes his second start at quarterback for McMinn Central. He's got a tough test this week at Loudon. Coach Herrig and the gang from Loudon. But Gabe Massengill, he's an athlete. They got Novice back. He played defense. He didn't trot him out there at quarterback. It's a shoulder injury, but Gabe looks pretty good in that quarterback spot.
I think he does. I really do. And, I think, I saw it 2 years ago in middle school basketball. His dad was a quarterback for me. And I said, is he a football player? And he said, no, he likes basketball. And I said, he looks like a quarterback to me. And, and a basketball player. He's a great athlete. And I think it's going to be, it's good. But we talked about this 2 or 3 weeks ago. These 3 or 4 tough games in a row, he had to pick up at Meigs County, and then he had to play a very good Kingston team. And now he's going to play the best of all 3 probably Friday night. And, he so far it doesn't seem to be bothering him a whole lot.
I'll tell you, it's weird watching in warm-ups. I'll go down on the field. I'll talk to coaches. Hey, how's Gabe doing? Doesn't bother him a bit. He came into Meigs County only playing football for practice-wise 7 days.
Literally 7 days.
7 days.
He hadn't been
unfazed. He made throws that 7-day quarterbacks don't make. And that's the athlete in him, man. That whole Massengill family. I mean, they're athletes from all the way down.
And you mentioned Loudon there, guys. I mean, how much would you pay to see a Loudon Meigs County matchup this year with how good both of those teams are?
Oh yeah.
That would be a knockdown, drag out. Obviously, I haven't seen Loudon. Obviously, we know kind of what they have. Obviously, with an undefeated start as well, I think that would definitely be a good matchup between those two.
It certainly would. I'd love to take a Saturday and come up to McMinn Central or down to Findlay and take about 10, 12 football teams and put them out there. And I'd just like to see that. Meigs, Loudon, Baylor, McCauley, those people, Tyner. Somebody, but
heck, we should probably just have the Southeast Tennessee Friday Night Pressbox Jamboree or something like that, right?
Yeah.
If we can work that into the budget, Tim Tao, I know you're listening to this because you're definitely not helping produce the show anymore. So
right.
Yeah, definitely work on that for next year.
But I just, I was talking to somebody one day about Gabe. And he's got Coach Moody is a great quarterback coach. I think he's going to feed him what he needs to be fed. And a lot of people was thinking, he's a freshman, but he's a sophomore. And, Coach Moody's going to be good for him. And that's no knock on Novice Cox. I think Novice could help that football team a lot of places, including quarterback. I think he really was having a good year. But, both those kids, McMinn Central is going to have two quarterbacks next year that's very well seasoned.
Coach Stone, I'll tell you this, something I noticed last Friday. Coach Moody had, Gabe told Coach Moody, he said, listen, if you see me mess up, I want you to give it to me. Grab my face mask, coach me. He said, don't be soft just because I'm a quarterback. About the third quarter, Gabe did something, missed a read or something. He pulls Gabe out, sends another quarterback in to hand it off for a play, and he is grabbing his face mask in his face, coaching him just as hard as he can. And that's what Gabe wants. And that tells you a lot about the kid that Gabe is. And I'm sure his daddy was the same way.
His daddy was the exact same way. his first year on varsity. He played outside linebacker for us, undersized, and they tried to pick on him, and it wasn't long till he had them going to the other side. But that's good. That's a good, and I could see that, and he's just like his daddy Brian and his uncle Brent. Coach me hard. Don't let me just flail away in mediocrity, and that's great. And he's a very intelligent young man. And I would give some credit to his grandpa Roger, but not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot. Jeff Kate, a couple of the Chattanooga matchups, real quick, that really catch your eye this week.
Well, I think you mentioned one of them right there was that Silverdale game against Knox Webb, I believe, on Friday, because Silverdale is kind of in the catbird seat when it comes to that region, but they have a game. Obviously, that game is a big one, and then they got a non-region game against East Ridge, and then I think they end the year with 2 region games, Knox Grace, and then the big one at Christian Academy in Knoxville. That's a game last year where Silverdale kind of just got overwhelmed physically, and I think they got 1 loss in the region. Silverdale's the only team I think it's undefeated in that region. So definitely a lot to play for. East Hamilton has a lot to play for because that game obviously Friday against a struggling Sawyer Daisy team should be the catalyst for that game next week against Red Bank. I think it's next week. We'll have to look at the schedule in depth, but they're in the catbird seat or in the driver's seat in that region as well. So I'm telling you, man, these next few weeks, it's going to be fun to watch and see kind of how teams position themselves, because it's not just for region championships, but that second seed is big as well because they get to host a first-round playoff game week 1 of the playoffs. So, that's definitely a big thing. And, for like when Manning was talking about, the win last week against Howard, there's 5 teams in that region. They beat, the 5th team, so they're in the playoffs. So, I mean, it's crazy how – playoff positions are already being set. Ray County is looking like they're going to win because they got a big win against Walker Valley last week. So it's here, brother. It's here. And but yeah, that 2A region like we talked about with the Marion and Tyner game, and then the one next week with Meigs and Tyner is going to be a lot of playoff positioning there as well, because those are 3 really good teams that should really be hosting a playoff game first round, but only 2 can. So we're definitely going to see what happens here in the next couple of weeks. It's going to be fun to watch.
Well, McMinn Central's region is going to come down to McMinn Central and Sweetwater, right?
Should. Or Brainerd won.
Huh?
Or Brainerd won. Central beat Brainerd head-to-head, so I'm not sure what Brainerd's done in the district, but that it's going to be tight.
I think it's going to come down to that game. And, who knows? I always told my people, as long as the system's like it is, if we're 1-9 or 2-8, give me another week of practice. That's half of a spring practice that I can get these guys better. And, just keep pushing on. I know Central's going to have, it's going to be rough at Loudon, but, just keep pushing on, go have a good attitude, play hard, have a good attitude about it, and whatever comes, but let's line it back up again next week.
Yep.
It was a fun show, boys.
Yeah, a good show, and we're ready for another week of football.
No doubt. And, I do want to throw this out there. I know we got like a minute left, but, I'm actually having to slide into the studio this week for our Coca-Cola Red Zone on Friday night. So Justin Sims will be at that Tyner Marion game. I'm kind of jealous because, these next 2 weeks are going to be probably some of the biggest on-site content we've ever had. And I got to just fill in for a couple of the guys, over the next couple of weeks. So if you're in the area, definitely listen on 102.3 Talk Radio and, get all the scores. And obviously, we'll have a lot of fun, a lot of updates from that game of the week from Marion and Tyner. Should be a lot of fun over the next couple of weeks. But, this is my favorite time of year, especially this October. The weather's changing and the action's heating up on the field. You can't ask for any more than that.
All right, guys, be sure to like and share, and be sure to watch the show on Facebook, Twitter, and thanks for watching Southeast Tennessee Friday Night Press Box presented by Team FYN Sports.